This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. You can locate Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom wherever podcasts are located. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, and on and on. Thanks for listening. Today I want to talk about what does it mean to really lead well. We think oftentimes about leading other people when we really need to talk about the most important first principle of leadership, and that is leading yourself well. We're not just responsible for other people, we're responsible for ourselves. And as you are all aware that this past year has been a very difficult time around the world with a pandemic and other kinds of situations. And so it's just kind of a good place to start. I mean, we can begin again in the middle of the year, the end of the year, beginning of the year. But wherever you are right now, if there are some things that you want to think about and work on in your life, I want to give you what I think is one of the biggest things we need to be working on, and that's ourselves. Not just in the area of competencies, because we can all get better, be better, and do better. There are certain skill sets that for most everything that one does for gainful employment, it involves a certain amount of time and skill, and you should make sure that you're not resting on your past laurels, but that you're keeping your skills up, you're learning new things. The rapidity of change is just constant, and the rate of change is really quite fast. So no one can just sort of stop and say, I know it all, I have learned it all, there's nothing more for me to learn in my field of endeavor. Well, that's just an impossible situation. But the fact is, we can always work on that. There's always seminars to go to, books to read, there are webinars to dip into, podcasts, mentors to spend time with, lots of ways where we can get those things done. I'm wanting to talk about our character as well. Don't ever get to the point where you think competency outweighs character. I've already just taken a minute or two to describe to you the fact that competency is exceedingly important. But I also want you to know you can be the most competent, skilled person in the whole wide world, but if there's something deficient about your character, you'll never be able to recover. Character is crucial. People follow much more passionately the people who they have absolute trust in their word and their character. If there's a skill that you're lacking in or competency that you need to have improved, there are classes to take, books to read, so forth, mentors to spend time with. But if your character is flawed, there's nowhere you can go. There's no character school. So I would just say to you, it's both a negative and a positive. The negative is don't cut corners with your character. Don't do things that go against your values and your beliefs. And then make sure that you're tending the garden of your own soul, that you're nurturing your own spirit, and that you are doing things that you are proud of and making sure that your character is intact. Let's talk about meetings. Depending on what it is exactly you're involved with, meetings are just a necessary part of life. And then there are some who love going to meetings. I've always been on the opposite side of one who it's not my favorite thing to do, and yet in the position that I hold today, I'm in meetings a lot. But for the meetings that you call, make sure you have a definite purpose and a specific reason why you've called it. Don't just call it because it's always scheduled that way. I remember a responsibility at a place where I was working where I had a pretty heavy responsibility, and the culture at that institution was to have as many meetings as possible. I not only went for meetings in our area and department, but I would be called into meetings for other areas and departments, and oftentimes as I sat there, I began to wonder exactly why am I here? What am I contributing to this. And then I would begin to think of all the things that were on my desk in my office that needed to be done. And while the clock was ticking away, I was in a meeting that wasn't really helping me to accomplish, or rather, I would say I was not helping to reach whatever needed to be done. And I saw it as almost a hindrance to getting work done. Now, most of you will not live on either extreme of where you hardly have any meetings, or one like where we were having meetings to plan more meetings. But I would just say to this, spend a little less time in meetings. A lot of meetings that I have been in my life would have been better served if someone would have written a lucid email and sent it to all of us. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go a bit more extreme and say I've been in meetings that would have made a great text sent to everyone where we could read it and absorb it and move on. It's almost like the Parkinson's law, that whatever amount of time you give to something, the work will fill it up. This is what I've noticed about meeting. If you have a 2-hour meeting scheduled and you're done in 10 minutes, people will waste the next hour and 50 minutes because we've committed to meeting together for 2 hours, whether we need to or not. Meetings should have a specific or several specific items that need to be covered, and one should never leave a meeting without everyone in the room understanding who is doing what, who is responsible for what, and when we are going to make sure that all of that has been accomplished. If we bloviate and talk for 2 or 3 hours and leave with no one clearly understanding who's responsible, who's going to follow up, who's going to let us know when these things have been accomplished, you'll need to have 3 or 4 more meetings because you never really got to the bottom line in the first meeting. So I would just say, stop meeting for the sake of meeting. Meetings can have very important outcomes, but you should all be agreed with that, and everyone should do what they are supposed to be doing. Another thing that I just want to mention to you is the fact that you really need to know what you're going to do the next day. For myself, I have an evening and a morning routine, and my evening routine is not only do I review the day and reflect on the day, I also do some reading, some spiritual business and things of that nature. And then I look over my calendar and I look over my list of tasks, projects I'm working on, meetings that are coming up tomorrow, or perhaps even a day or two in the future. And then I just begin, I do it by freehand because it helps me creatively, I believe, writing down what are some of the things that I really ought to be about tomorrow. And I list out several things, and then I go back and say, what are the 3 most crucial that if for some reason some accident happens, something shuts everything down, what would be the 3 things that if I don't get done, it'll be really not very good? And I call them my 3 most important tasks. I even kind of make an agreement with myself in which I say, if I don't have these 3 done by tomorrow evening, I will not go to bed until they are done. And then I list them in order of 3, sort of like the eating the frog, swallowing the frog. And that is when, for me, it's the morning. I'm energetic, I'm relaxed, I have a lot of energy to spend, so I take the tasks that are more difficult and challenging, but significantly important to get done that day, and I put them 1, 2, or 3. And because I get up early and I have a morning routine, one of the morning routines is to work on that project, or that task, or that item. I try to have a minimum of 1 of the 3 that is associated with my goal that keeps me moving forward. What this does is that if some unforeseen event happens tomorrow that I don't know about at this moment, if I get up early and at least get going on the first thing and get the first and maybe even number 2 done, regardless of what happens tomorrow, I will feel like I did accomplish something and I kept things moving forward. one of the things that I make sure that I do in my evening routine is when I'm laying out those three. Now, often, if not most in every day, I get more than three things done. But the three most important are the first things. But then I look, is there documentation I need? Is there a file that I need? Are there some emails or meeting notes that I need? Then I gather them either electronically or physically, put them into my attaché bag, so that when I get up in the morning and start working on number 1, 2, and 3, I will have already put all the materials that I need to review, to work on, to write out, whatever it is I need to do. I will have all of that stuff. And I won't spend a lot of time trying to hunt for things and to look for things. So I've found if you pre-prepare for that, you can really get things done. So if you've never done that, I would say that might be something for you to try for 30, 40 days to see if that works. One of the things that has immensely helped me over the years is just get up earlier than everybody at my house. Get up earlier. The phones aren't ringing. There aren't as many people looking for you. The texts aren't coming in. And it's quiet. And in the part of the world I live in, especially this time of year, it's dark. And I can get up and in an hour and a half, I have taken care of personal situations that I need to take care of. I can take care of important tasks so that really before I get the day really up and started, I've gotten much more done. Now, when you do that, you can't stay up till midnight or 1 in the morning. Something has to give. Now, I know there are evening people who like that, but I'm also wondering, are you really doing work? Are you really working on goals? Or are you wasting time on the internet and watching television? Many people tell me they're productive at night. I'm not saying that you're not, but I'm saying just do a little audit. Are you really being productive, or are you just spending time doing things that you really, truly would like to do? Or are you just sort of saying, well, you know, these are the things I'm getting done. Here's another item that I would give for your consideration as a way to really lead well and improve our leadership is learn to ask really good questions. There are lots of good reasons for that. Some of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned, I learned because I stopped and asked someone a question. Questions are powerful teachers. If you ask the question with the real idea that you want to come to an understanding and that you can learn something from anyone, these questions will become really powerful and provoking teachers that will help you. I have found that when I ask questions, not only of myself does that happen, but it helps other people reflect. They don't just give flippant answers. You can see them really thinking deeply and reflecting on whatever it is you've asked. If you're a person of faith, I think questions are a time for us to leave space for listening to the Lord, or just coming with an idea that I don't know everything and I am a lifelong learner. I have found that listening to the answers to questions really helps me in discerning and clarifying what is really important to me, the organization, life, etc. I have discovered that most every creative outcome of an organization, a committee, or teams happens when we begin to ask questions. And when you're the leader and you're asking questions, what you are communicating is, I am not the answer person for this entire organization. We are all needed. We need input from every one of you. Everyone's thoughts, input, work adds tremendous value. So it just encourages all of us to put on our creative hat and really do things. It really, together, we can find some ways of moving ourselves forward. So ask questions, get up early. Because I have spent a lot of my years preaching and public speaking and looking at people, most of us have no idea what our faces look like. We get into a default facial expression, and interestingly enough, the default facial expression for most people is a frown. And if there's anyone in the room who is smiling and making eye contact, they kind of become your points of contact as you're looking around the room, because they're giving you some important feedback and, might I say, encouragement. Why don't you make a goal this year to smile more? It's not going to happen automatically. You have to work at it. You have to be very, very intentional. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or an employee somewhere, remember that the employees and your colleagues don't work for you. We are here to help them and to work for them. Now, I know that if you're the boss, they all work for you. I know that, you know that. But what I'm trying to say is this will help us to quit thinking that everyone is here to wait on me to do what I want to have done. But I am in this world to make a difference, not only to make a difference in the world, but to make a difference in the organization, my family, my friends, and my colleagues, and my fellow employees. So, what I would say to each of you is, do a few of these things, and I think they will help you to lead well. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust this has been like a vitamin or a supplement for your heart and mind, and wherever you receive podcasts, please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying have a great and blessed day.